What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4. We finally are here. We're finally going to go on a hunt. I'm really excited to finish out this Precision Hunter Tikka build and share the experience with you. What are we going to be covering in this episode? So prior to this, we already took a stock Tikka and shot some accuracy results with it. Kind of got a baseline, and then we made small improvements and shot again and got another baseline, and then now we are in our Precision Hunter build. We added some premium components, went to the range last episode, and kind of got our expectations of what the performance is going to be like in this configuration here. We talked about hunting a little bit, hunting focused performance for this build. What you haven't seen, I have been scouting for deer. The location that I have picked the last 4 or 5 years, it's a long hike in, it's high, it's elevation, it's out of the way, so it's been really good. I've seen quite a few deer up there. I had high hopes, but last year there was a fire and burnt through that area, burnt up my trail cams, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Burn scars tend to be really good places to hunt due to the new vegetation that usually grows in there after a fire, but that was not the case. I had bought new trail cams, hiked them all the way up there, set them in, and I haven't got a single deer in the area for the last year. So things were not looking good. This is where I need to bring up my buddy Peter. Peter was a fireman with me. He had been hunting years prior, but with zero success. He was part of a group of guys that went and hunted, and they shot a little bit, hunted a little bit, mostly camping. Peter came to me and said, I want to get better and more proficient at hunting. Can you help me? And I said, sure thing. I love doing things like this. So the first thing I did was I suggested some reading for Pete to kind of test his dedication to it, because people come up to me all the time and say, hey, make me shoot better. I'm like, all right, well, you need to do this, this, and this. And it kind of just fizzles out after that. So I gave some topics for Peter to look into, and then we talked about it, further shifts, and he had actually dug into the material and started learning and was wanting to learn more. So I invited him out to the range. We went over his rifle. We set him up properly. We started shooting baseline groups to find out what ammo selection his rifle liked. And then I suggested maybe doing some modifications that could help him further his hunting experience. So he did that. He made some slight upgrades to his hunting rig and saw a improvement in his accuracy, much like the tests that we did with this one. I basically did the same thing with Pete. Pete started hitting targets out to 700, out to 1,000. Pete started making his own wind calls. He was feeling very proficient. Pete bought his own tripod, started shooting off a tripod. The confidence was rising. Pete turned into a very good shooter. I was very impressed. I enjoyed seeing him go out on his own and him come to the results, come with the range results and share that with me. He started sharing some stuff with his friends. So I got a lot of enjoyment out of this process as well. So then me and Peter started hunting together. We started coyote hunting together. And he hit the ground running. We went to a couple spots immediately, got some coyotes, started working through hiccups, started improving, started getting more coyotes, and then Pete started hunting by himself. And so this grew his confidence even more. And that's where we decided, hey, maybe for deer hunting, instead of going with your buddies, maybe we could go together. And so, but like I said, we started scouting. We didn't see any deer. In the area that I had kind of picked to hunt in, not in the hills, but in the lower parts, there's some water. And that is a good place to coyote hunt. So while coyote hunting there, I had ran into some deer, some bucks, 2 different 3x3 bucks. So I kind of told Peter about this, and he was like, hey, it's a couple days before the season. He's like, hey, I'm going to ride my motorcycle back there, get deep in there, find a high point, and start glassing around. And I get a phone call from Pete, and he's super excited. He's like, dude, I'm looking at a buck. It's a 3x3. And I was like, perfect. There's your deer. And he's like, no, like you need to come out here. And I was like, no, you found him. It's your first year that we've worked together, stuff like that. So this is your deer. I had no quarrels with that. I had shot deer before. He hadn't. So I wanted him to kind of feel that success more than I wanted to get that success myself. So we made a plan together to go out opening day. And that's what we did. We got there super early. And right off the bat, man, I was worried because there was like 6 other guys there. But they were hunting kind of close to the road, and we had planned to go back. So we start hiking in. We hike in a few miles and get set in, and we're waiting for first light. And right about first light, we both spot a deer. And we can kind of see it moving. Can't really confirm anything. I pull out my spotting scope, pull that out, and I immediately saw antlers. And I was like, yes, dude, we found the buck. So we start getting excited, you know. But then we start seeing some other movement. And I glassed that. And it's the second buck that I knew that was back there. So we got even more excited. Opening day, 2 bucks in California, unheard of. So we get really excited. That excitement quickly turns to worry when we catch more movement. And it is another hunter. And he is riding an e-bike on the main path in, and where he is riding to get to us, he's gonna ride right by both of the bucks. So we kind of like, well, is he gonna scare them? Is he gonna see them is he gonna also see them and start pursuing them? So we need to make a decision. And in the moment, I turn to Pete and I'm like, do you feel confident going and shooting your buck by yourself without my help? And he looks at me and he's like, I got it. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go after the second buck. You go after your buck. Good luck to you. And we both take off. We separate. I get into within 500 yards of my buck that I was after. And I start setting up my tripod. I'm getting set in, and then I hear like gunshots. 5, 6, 7, 8 gunshots. And I'm like, what is happening? Not from where Peter had went. It was more towards the buck I was aiming at. So I look through the spotting scope at the buck, and he, of course, is all, worried. His ears are perked up. He's moving around. He immediately bolts off, goes down the ridge line, and gets into some really thick stuff, and then he doesn't come out the other side. So I'm pretty confident that's where he bedded down to hide. Pretty discouraged at this point, but I had not lost all my hope, because I was still hoping that Pete had found his. I call him. I'm like, hey dude, lost my buck, ran off. What's your situation? And he said, like, I can't find my buck either. It disappeared. And I'm in a pretty elevated position, so I tell him, okay, well, kind of triangulate for me where the last point is that you saw him. And he kind of vectors me in, and I start scanning with my spotting scope. Scanning. I break the area down into grids, and I start right to left scanning this grid pattern until I see just like a bundle of what looks like sticks, but is darker, really dark, than anything else. And I'll play the video so you can see what I saw. And just something about it was out of place, and so I like zoom in on it, start focusing, I stare at it. As you can see, this spotting scope has a attachment that you can put your cell phone on. Olin's makes this. It's magnetized, and you put a phone case on your phone, and then when you click your phone on there, it is perfectly focused to this spotting scope, and you can look through your phone through the spotting scope. It's really nice. And what it gives you the ability to digitally zoom in past the optical zoom of the optic. So I zoom in about halfway optically, and then I start zooming in while recording digitally with my phone. And while I'm recording, I see movement. And what it was the buck. He just, slightly moved his head a little bit, and that's all I need. I found the buck, and we both got excited at that point, and I try and kind of triangulate him into it, but he, from his vantage point, can't see it. So I'm in line with it. Pete's kind of offset for me. I tell him, just move to the west, and when I see you lined up with it, I'm going to tell you to stop. And he does just that. As soon as he's inside my field of view, I tell him to stop and face the direction of the deer. I can triangulate him off known features at that point, and he was looking at what I was looking, and we both see the deer. We're both excited, but he is at like 600 or 700 yards. He makes the decision to get closer, which is very wise on his part. He sees another ridge in front of him, and he utilizes a technique that I'll show you guys later in my hunt. But he said, if I can get to that ridge line, I'll be within 300, and that'll be a good shot, and we'll wait for the sun to get on the deer, for him to stand up, and that's when we'll take the shot. So Pete starts hiking out, and I'm just watching the deer at this point. And what I can see is the deer start to nod off. His eyes are closed. His rack is dipping, until he's eventually laying fully on the ground, which I've never seen a buck lay just completely rack on the ground. Pretty cool. I just keep watching it. Pete's kind of getting into position. I can see him moving up and down this ridge, trying to find a good shot. And then I see the deer perk his head up, and he stands like pretty upright, and he's just looking around like this. So I I don't know if he could hear Pete, or see Pete, or something else was going to scare him. So Pete starts setting his tripod up. I keep looking at the deer, and it's getting real anxious, and I can't figure out why. There's a coyote trying to sneak up on the deer, and the deer's getting real nervous. So I tell Pete, like, hey, go through your shooter's checklist, get everything ready. As soon as he stands up, if he stands up, hammer him. And, I keep watching him. Pete keeps watching him. And I don't see the coyote, I think because of my angle, but I see the deer stand up. I hear a single shot, and I see the deer hit the deck. So I'm like super excited for Peter. Got his first deer. We're super stoked. We confirm that he's down, and we go through the butchering process, and man, it was just such a fulfilling experience to see a friend of mine go from just a novice shooter, novice hunter, to putting it all together, having the confidence to do it all yourself, going through his checklist, setting up his tripod, having the hunting experience to know that his next actions, waiting for the deer, making a solid, perfect shot, and then being able to share the experience of victory with him, and providing for his family with all that meat, and showing him how to butcher it and cape it and all that stuff and pack it out. It was, even though I didn't get a deer that day, I was I couldn't have had a better day. It was awesome. So, next day, I make a plan. Like I said, the buck that I was after, still in the area, I didn't see where he went, so I'm pretty sure he bedded down. So I knew that he would be up that evening. I went out that evening. I didn't see anything. So I was a little worried that next morning, but I set up, and where I set up, where the deer was, there was kind of like 3 little fingers that kind of followed each other that came down from a high point. And I was hoping that he would be in one of those fingers, using it for shade, and that he would bed down there in the evening, and then be up first thing in the morning, and then go bed down there after first light. So I found a good vantage point. I set up, and I'll kind of roll some footage now from out in the field. Morning, guys. Day 2 deer season. Out here early morning again, just after first light, just scanning ridge lines, looking for movement. I spotted a group of doe up on one of the fire breaks, just kind of grazing the grass. They're at like 850, so no real other activity. So I'm just gonna keep glassing them. Hopefully something shows up. Nice and cold this morning, so high hopes. All right, guys, so glassing those does, I did find a buck, and it's the one we're after. Nice 3x4, looks like, through the Vortex spotting scope. So we're gonna chase him down, but we're not gonna jump too fast into it because, like I said, he's like 800 yards away. Remember, in our ballistic study, our maximum range to achieve the necessary bullet expansion would be 700 yards. So I gotta move anyways. I'd like to move you know, even closer than that if I had the opportunity. So we're gonna do a quick terrain study, maybe try and find some high ground where I'd have a better advantage in taking a closer shot on that buck. So right now you're looking at what I'm looking at, and right now the buck I'm watching is over here. You can see this kind of little fire break here. He's just crossed that fire break and is kind of munching on some bushes on the right side of that fire break. That's at 850. So I don't want to take a shot that far. So what I'm going to do is try and find some key terrain. Immediately, my eyes are focused in on kind of these big trees right here. And so if I know that that is 800 and I range to these trees and those are 400, then I can best guess that, you know, 800 minus 400 will be a 400-yard shot. I'm a lot more comfortable taking that kind of shot. I think I have a good path up to that shooting position where I can keep some vegetation between me and that deer. So my hope is to sneak up on him. He won't even know I'm there. I'll have the concealment of that big pepper tree, and he won't even know that I'm in the area. It'll give me plenty of time to set up and take a better shot. So I'm gonna pack up my stuff here and start heading to those pepper trees. All right, so there's the fire break I'm going to. There's the tree I'm going to. Now I could just walk straight to it, but I risk exposing myself to that deer. So what I want to do is walk around this way, keep this terrain feature between me and the buck, and he'll never even see me, hopefully, when I'm setting up to take the shot. Just taking my time to get there. You can see about 100 yards from that last pepper tree where I want to take my shot. So I'm just really taking my time, trying to move with a purpose, keep my heart rate down, and just kind of, I'm looking at the terrain, I'm looking at where I'm going to end up, and I'm kind of trying to make a plan as I go, so I don't have to try and figure everything out right as I get there. All right, so I'm just coming in now to the pepper tree. Now, I don't want to break this crest because then I'll be in view of the deer. So I'm gonna take off my pack and everything here and just slightly move up, see if I can't look through this pepper tree. I can see a gap in here. I'm gonna just try and use the vegetation to my advantage before just completely exposing myself to the deer. All right, the first thing I want to do is confirm range of target. So I'm going to use the concealment of this pepper tree. I'm going to crawl up in here, hopefully find a clear line of sight to where my laser will work. All right, low as possible. Find a loophole. All right, I can see him with my naked eye. And just as we thought, he's at 397, so we'll call that 400. Before I lose sight of him, I'm gonna go ahead and pick 3 different terrain features that I can triangulate his position
just in case in my preparation to take the shot I lose sight of him, I can kind of triangulate where the last point I saw him. So right up here, there's a nice little flat spot that I'm thinking is going to be my firing position. So I'm going to move all my stuff up there, and I'm going to take my time, which is hard in this kind of situation. I'm going to try and take my time and set up a really good position to guarantee that I take this shot. All right, there's my fire break. Gonna stay low. I think I like this. Now, I'm not gonna go and push too far forward into the sunlight, because then the sun will be casting its light on me and you'll be able to see my movement from a lot farther. I'm gonna stay here in the shade of this pepper tree to further conceal my position. And from the deer's point of view, if he were to look at me and I was to stand over here, you would see light background with a shadow, dark foreground. So you would kind of be highlighting yourself. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep this pepper tree to my back. So dark in the background with me, dark in the shade. I'm gonna shoot from right here so I can have all those things and use to my advantage. Okay, I'm looking at him. I'm looking at the does, and none of them seem to know I'm here. They've got ears down. They're just grazing along, which is perfect. I'm gonna take my time. So ideal shooting position would be prone. So I'm gonna attempt, but I have bushes all around me, I can't do prone. So I'm gonna attempt to go one shooting position higher, which would be sitting. All right, I'm gonna sit. All right, my head, high sternal notch, a little bit of an angle. I'm sitting on. A little bit too high. All right. Now the first thing I like to check is my natural point of aim. Left arm is straight. All right, I'm gonna check my natural point of aim, and I'm gonna look at my reticle. I can feel my position is sloped. I feel I have good support on one side, not on the other. And I can see it in my reticle. I'm gonna make one attempt to make it better, but I don't think I like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I got some kind of, I'm just over the bushes. So there's some branches, kind of leaves in the way I can see. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go with my instinct and go with a low kneeling. Almost like just a high sitting, if that makes sense. So I'm a little bit higher over those bushes. And now what I'm gonna do, I build my position first. I check my natural point of aim. All right, build my position. I feel good. Now I'm gonna supplement my position. I have time, I'm looking at him. He's not startled. So how can I supplement this? I'm gonna take my shooting bag and put it underneath my butt. And then I'm gonna take my hunting pack and I'm gonna get it high here to give me good rear elbow support. Now, with Hornady Ford off, I checked my wind speed for this gun. It's a 7-mile-an-hour gun. So full value wind speed at 400 would be 0.4. Right now it's a right to left, so it would be 0.4 right. But we don't have a 7-mile-an-hour. We have probably 2 to 3. I'd say probably lower 2s. And so that would be like a 0.1 wind call, if that. So I'm not gonna hold anything for wind. I feel good about this. I'm gonna recheck my wobble zone and get into a breathing cycle. I feel really good about that. Perfectly in the vitals. Slow, steady squeeze.
All right, guys, we got it done. This 7 PRC performed phenomenally. You can see that Hornady 160 CX from this Outfitter Ammunition just decimated that deer. When I showed the video to my friends, they all were saying, "Oh, you shot him in the spine." But no, what you saw was kind of a ripple effect go through the deer. And I had taken shot placement photos. You can see just right in the lungs, maybe 0.1, 0.2 left of where I was aiming. But like I said, there was a little bit of wind, but not even enough to account for. So it was like 2 miles an hour. So I just held center. I didn't make any correction. And you can see it drifted like just a little bit left from that front shoulder where I was aiming. But still solid lung hit. That CX just blew up inside of him and he died just instantly. One thing that I wanted to tell you guys was, before you shoot an animal, if you have time like I did, get those reference points where, okay, if I come out of this scope, it's gonna look different. What ridge line is he in? What bush is he next to? What rock is he next to? Kind of get some terrain features, because sometimes when you shoot deer, they run off and then you can have like Was it on this ridgeline or was it that ridgeline? Was it this big bush or was it that big bush? So if you kind of take that quick second to get those reference points, sometimes it'll help you out in the recovery process, and you won't get lost or turned around and have to go call somebody with some blood dogs or whatever, or a drone to find your deer. So as you can see in the cell phone video that I took through the scope, I just found that big rock. He was hanging out by that big rock, and I was able to see that with the naked eye. So after I shot him, I just walked, straight directly to that big rock and walked up on him, and he was dead right there. What I did was I drug him into the shade, which you're gonna see video now, and I like to do the gutless method when I recover the meat. So basically, just open them up, take all the meat off one side, lay the skin out, flip the deer, and then you do the same process just on the other side. I like to, you can see I anchored in his antlers. I tied him up with some paracord, and that kind of just keeps him in position and keeps them from always falling downhill while you're trying to skin them out. I recovered a good amount of meat. I was so happy. I skinned the skull for a Euro mount in the field. I just find not having to bring all that stuff. The first year I shot a deer, I left all the skin and the ears and everything on the head. I brought it back. I wanted to do a Euro mount, and it just kind of got so nasty in the freezer. And then I thawed it out and I boiled it, and then trying to get all that skin off afterwards was just, it sucked, man. So I found it way easier to skin everything off in the field, just leave it out there for all the animals to eat out there, and it was a lot cleaner to do just right there on site. I brought that skull back and I boiled it at work. I pressure washed it at work, and then I boiled it again in Simple Green and Dawn dish soap to pull all the oils out and stuff like that. I then went to a pool supply store and bought some pool shock. My good friend from work, Dallas, he used to strip skulls for friends on the side. He had a bunch of beetles that he would just throw the skull in there, and the beetles would eat all the flesh, and then he would bleach the skull afterwards. And so he shared with me a method that he used, where he uses like a pool shock chemical, heats up the water, pours this pool shock in there, and it strips all the flesh away that you weren't able to get off with the pressure washer, and it completely bleaches the skull, and it makes it look really nice. I did that with my deer last year, and it looked great, so I just replicated the process this year. And here is the final product. Not bad for California deer, especially this area. There is just tons of hunters in this area, so it's really hard to kind of find really big mature bucks around here. So I'll take it. This is a solid win for me. Phenomenal experience. This is one that I'll never forget. This is just awesome. I do truly consider myself blessed to be successful amongst all the other hunters in California. So I'll take it. I want to say thank you for following along with me in this journey. If you made it through all 4 episodes, you know I try and answer questions. So if you have any questions about how I did this hunt or any of this equipment I used, go ahead and throw it in the comments section and I'll get back to you. If there's something I missed out, an area you still have questions about, nothing's to say I can't make an episode 5. So if it's warranted, you want to see something different, you want to see this gun go in a different direction, let me know. I know one guy asked what my plans were, if I was going to do anything now after this series is done. And to be honest, I'm pretty happy with this. I like that the Outlier chassis has that forearm that can be swapped out. I like that it stays in this lightweight mode, or I can have it heavier for kind of dedicated range stuff. What I should probably do is get a solid steel proof barrel for this, that if I were to go do some like dedicated range stuff or like a law enforcement class or military class, that I could have a dedicated Magnum for range work. Because this proof barrel, as we saw with the shot groups, when you get around those 5 rounds, it starts getting really hot and you start seeing a change in accuracy. So it's a consistent change. You can account for it, but I think with the steel barrel, you'd probably get even more solid results for longer strings of fire. Maybe that's a good idea for episode 5. Maybe we should do like a steel bull barrel and see if we can't get better or consistent results for longer strings of fire with that. Just test the difference between a steel barrel and a carbon barrel. Well, we're gonna close this out, shut this episode down. Thank you if you made it to the end of the video. Thank you for everyone that made this video possible. This has been extremely fun for me and kept me busy on my off days. So if you guys want to see something similar, let me know. Until then, I'll see you in the next episode.